Oh, hell no! Nah, man, nah, you saw the big change in Detroit. Yesterday, Derek Lalonde was fired. The day after Christmas, Steve Yzerman makes a huge splash in the Red Wings locker room, in the Red Wings organization. It is Todd McLellan in, and Derek Lalonde, newsy baby, out. But in T-Mac's first game as the head coach of the Detroit Red Wings, the Wings ultimately look pretty, I don't want to say like entirely bad. It wasn't like the worst game in the world, especially in the third period, but man, the Wings lost 5-2. Yeah. Not great, but not the worst game in the world. Honestly, I feel like there were a lot of Toronto Maple Leafs stories that you could gather from this game, more so than the Detroit Red Wings. In particular, that Mitch Marner story is getting kind of ridiculous. The guy is scoring so many goals now that Austin Matthews is out. He had a natural hat trick in this game against Stevie Y, and ultimately his dollar amount is going to just go up and up and up. He thought that Marner was going to get $12 million before. Oh boy. Talk about 12-5, 13 now, because the Toronto Maple Leafs are receiving everything and more that Mitch Marner is capable of, not to mention all the other goal scorers today, too. The Nick Robertson story continues on, not to mention David Kampf, so some lower-tier guys getting involved in Toronto offense. Of course, Mitch Marner being the true star. The Wings, though, did score 2 goals in this one, and both of those goals came in the third period, which I think is maybe a little bit why the reception to this game isn't entirely doom and gloom. Because here's the thing, like in the first 40 minutes, the Wings were down 5-0. Nick Robertson also scored in the final 2 seconds of the second period, so nice to see him going out there and doing that, totally ruining the Red Wings and their second period plans. I mean, they were already down 4-0, and they kind of left Robertson open on the back door, so it wasn't really Toronto's fault here. I want to say the Wings did kind of stink in the first 40 minutes, but there was a lot of doom and gloom at this point. That point right before the third period, I saw some people talking about, oh, this team still stinks, like Steve Yzerman went out there and talked smack, he bit back against the media. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. I wanted to focus on the game in this particular video, but just the common consensus on the Wings post Derek Lalonde in the first 2 periods of this game was all, hey, it's not the coach's fault, it's the Red Wings' fault. The team is not playing well, they're showcasing the worst in front of their new coach, people are questioning Dylan Larkin and his leadership, people are questioning the Yzer plan. We'll get into that and more tomorrow, as I said, but it was boring, it was kind of lazy at times, it was uninspiring for a lot of fans that were hoping that the Todd McLellan era in Detroit would start off with a bang. And maybe it didn't, the first 40 minutes sucked, but the third period was actually pretty good. They scored 2 goals, so not entirely bad. Lucas Raymond on the power play. Nice play from Mo Seider and Dylan Larkin, so of course nice to see the Wings getting involved on the man advantage once more. Larkin wins the puck back over to Seider, he throws it over Raymond, a one-time bomb, it's in, and then you had yourself Simon Edvinsson just 4 minutes later making it 5-2. This one assisted by Vladimir Tarasenko and JT Compher, 2 guys who have been criticized quite a bit the past few weeks here, getting themselves a few more assists to pad the stats, and Simon Edvinsson takes the long shot from the point to make it a 3-goal game. The Wings actually did have some solid effort and play in the third period. They outshot Toronto by a significant amount, and they were kind of controlling the pace a little bit more, which is the main reason I think that the common consensus for this game isn't entirely positive. It's kind of a mixed bag. It's like, hey, Todd McLellan, you're seeing everything that the Wings are capable of. They're bad, lazy, unmotivated defensive coverage, and incapabilities of producing offense consistently in the first 2 periods, but in the third, when things go right with Detroit, this is how they play. They bounce on the pucks, they get them on goal, they score, and it's the guys that you expect to score putting up points. It's maybe even the best way for Todd McLellan to start out his Detroit Red Wings career, because now there isn't really any sort of a diversion. He saw everything. All the good and all the bad we saw on display tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs, so ultimately it wasn't the worst game in the world. This is, I think, an evaluation game. where McClellan can just acknowledge, observe, see what his team is about, and build off of that in the future. I mean, come on, the guy was hired yesterday, so it's definitely not going to be easy for the Wings to shake off their Derek Lalonde habits and their style immediately. Maybe it took them 2 periods to do that, but still, it's better than nothing, and at the end of the day, they come away with another regulation loss. I think at this point you have to really start wondering what's going to happen with Detroit heading into the next few months here when it comes to the draft and all that. There's going to be some conversation about top prospects. There's going to be a lot of talk about the future and whether or not the Yzer plan really is working out in the ways that we all thought it would or maybe even should. But ultimately, the Red Wings falter once again to the Toronto Maple Leafs. This was not really a noteworthy game, but in the story of the Red Wings, in the story of the season, this ultimately served a bigger purpose than we might have initially anticipated. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Honestly, we're 2 minutes away from 8, so we can maybe try to stretch this thing out before going over to the end there. Ultimately, I do think that the overarching sentiments that have grown against Stevie Y the past little while are very valid, and we'll get into this more tomorrow, but I just kind of get a bit of a feeling that something else has got to go down here. It's not just Derek Lalonde that's got to go. Something's got to change up with who's on the team, the strategies, of course, that will change with the coaching staff. The personnel had already changed, but I don't know. You just got to wait. Maybe even like a week. A week seems like a pretty good, reasonable timeline. Maybe a week and a half to start to gauge what the Wings are doing under this new coaching staff and under these new systems, because if they're able to string together some wins all of a sudden, which hasn't really been easy for them this season, then maybe it will be the coaching bump. Who knows? If he can get JT Compher, Andrew Kopp, Vladimir Tarasenko, and Patty Kane all going at the same time, then Todd McClellan, we got to build this guy a statue. If the Wings end up making the playoffs somehow, which I don't think is going to happen, but if they end up finding themselves back in the race for the wild card like they had last year, then Todd McClellan might be seen as one of the most liked men in Detroit by the time the season is over. But of course, that's neither here nor there. It's kind of impossible to predict at this point. But anyways, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the 28th place Detroit Red Wings losing yet another game in regulation. They've lost 4 in a row. They're 3-7-10 in their last 10. The coaching change was in effect, but we'll have to wait and see a little bit before we see any tangible results from that transaction. So thoughts in the comment section about the Red Wings and this loss to Toronto. I hope you enjoyed this video. 9 and bye.